Okay, yeah, this looks good. We are going to be having a look at Dagon. This is a short story. Dagon is a faithful, interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited, progressing through locations along with the plot. Let me do a very... One sec. One moment. Let me do this. Let me switch the stream to a title that'll get me canceled if anyone saw it. There you go. There we are. Okay, let's get to
I
it.
am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Understandable, yes. During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Wait, wasn't he? So was the planet, yes. During the game, you'll encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journeys, others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden in order to find these secrets. Focus your eyes and look for the Elder sign. Right. Anything else we can click on, or just you? No.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
That's a hell of a way to go out, man.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
Morphine, of all things, man? Couldn't even go out on opium?
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Alright, fair enough. Shit. We do a little writing, we do.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Goddamn Germans. Every time. Every time I think life is secure, no, here come the fucking Germans to ruin it.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation.
Yeah, World War I was kind of not the best for anyone, I'll be honest.
So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Could have just put you to death. Take what you can get. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th of July 1900, before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, you will be defeated. No quarter will be given, prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. Yeah, some laws were put into place after some fucked up shit that happened in both of those wars. There's a reason war crimes are a thing, man.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone, in a small boat, with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Sleeping on the job, huh? Well, off we go, I guess.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
I mean, that's... Oh, God. I guess that really depends on hemisphere, right? Is that the moon rising? Oh, God. I would die at sea so fast. Oh, Christ.
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
Right.
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Keep an eye out for fins. Man, I wouldn't stand a chance out here. Not one. I'd be toast, man. Moon.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun,
Oh, Christ.
waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Drink all the salt water? I don't even drink regular water, let alone salt water. Drink.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
Man, nature's bullshit.
The change happened whilst I slept.
Mm-hmm?
Its details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
That doesn't sound good, no? Oh. We're in one of them places, are we? Well, here we are. Hi.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see.
Yeah, this is not where you want to be. Yeah.
And in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
I don't know, man. I can feel like I could beat up most of these things. I played Bloodborne.
For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
Yeah, I see 'em.
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
At least you're not sinking into it, right?
The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking metal. Any chance? Be a hell of a Hail Mary attempt. Those are bad squishing sounds.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
Heat stroke?
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
That'd be a hell of a thing, I'll be honest. Is that thing moving? Yeah, it is. That's a big sludge right there. Finished a layout today? Nice. Good work. Keep on keeping on. You get that shit done real quick, man.
Nor were
impressive.
there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, there should be pigeons around given all this, right? Yeah.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
At least it's not dark.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness, and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
God, fucking sea roaches.
That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water.
Yeah, given this thing is
preparatory
right
to an
behind your
overland
resting
journey
spot,
in
I would
search of
too.
the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Well, no time like the present.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening.
Still not a
I
good
was
sign.
too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Or rehydrate. Hang on. Let me go get a mini Pepsi. One sec. It's right behind me. That. That. Alright, get it right into the mic, baby. There you go. That's what you like to hear. Huh. Cold one with the boys on a Friday night. Yeah, I suppose. Alright, well. You think these things are still edible? And I guess I need sticks to rub together to make a fire first, because I doubt doing it raw is going to do much. Okay, just crawl right over it.
All day I forged
Is
steadily.
that a merman?
Guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
Is that a sea scorpion? Huh. Well, I feel like I really shouldn't be here. Whale. You know, whales washing up ashore with weird scars every now and then kind of makes you wonder what weird shit they're hanging out with.
That night, I
keeps going.
encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Yeah. I think logic's a little bit out the window at this point if you've gone this many days in the middle of the ocean and nothing's actually happening. Because if it was actually a volcano bursting some land up to the surface, it wouldn't be lasting this long, man.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance.
Yeah, that's a mountain. The whales just tripped over the stairs, happens all the time. Oh, just like them wives.
An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface.
Huh.
Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
Well, better place as any, I guess.
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night.
My dreams are rarely wild, I'll be honest. Had a decent one last night, though. Very nice.
But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
Oh, you got one of them epiphanies, right?
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again.
Alright, fair enough.
And
Do
in
some
the glare
climbing.
of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
But also you're kind of blind.
Indeed,
To whatever
I now
horrors lay
felt
wait.
quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
The whole thing? God, man. Alright.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me.
You and me both.
But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon,
Did you find the Sarlacc?
whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illuminate.
going down.
Peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost,
Be careful when staring into the abyss and all that.
and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness.
You know, Dante's Inferno was always Bible fan fiction, right? It was never considered canon scripture.
As the moon
All I'm saying,
climbed
man.
higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
How do you mean? No, really, what do you mean?
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent,
For as long as it lasts, I guess.
whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Alright. Guess we'll get started.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely
Is that a fucking
analyze,
monolith?
I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath,
But that, though.
gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated.
Stygian's a bad word. That's not a word you want to fuck with.
All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the
Yeah?
opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me.
I see it.
An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Get a little bit closer.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
I don't think you're gonna be so fortunate, I'll be honest.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
What's that? Nature doesn't make rectangles? Who would have guessed?
A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Yeah, there's a few things that could be. None of them particularly good, I'll be honest.
For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith,
No shit.
whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures.
And not specifically human, yeah.
Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Yeah, no. It's just kind of dark and inky all around, isn't it? Made two PB&Js.
The moon,
I could go for
now
one.
near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm,
I had like a whole-ass pizza earlier, though, so I probably shouldn't.
and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions, and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope.
It goes off a little bit that way. Looks like a creek goes off through the crevice, but here it just kind of stops. Also, that doesn't look all that good.
Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Yeah. Fuck, man.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me, and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books.
Yeah, there's Cthulhu. I see him. He's right there.
Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like.
Yeah, I see him.
Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world.
like this mantis thing, which I think we saw earlier.
but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain.
See, he knows.
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Yeah, I see him. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness, the Nameless City. Journals and characters' notes, the shadow out of time, the haunter of the dark. Islands emerging from the ocean, the Call of Cthulhu, were fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies. Migo and the Whisper in Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order to not spoil the ending. About that.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men.
The kind that are a little bit more eel-y, I guess.
Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto.
We saw them earlier, right? At least one.
Or paying homage at some monolithic shrine, which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint.
That bad, huh?
Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up. That one at the bottom kind of looks like Predator, though.
Outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips.
You think if the Predators found out about Cthulhu, they'd all just pop a boner wanting to go hunt it? I feel like that'd be the case.
Glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background.
Yeah, about
One
that.
of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
That's threatening.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size.
Yeah.
Some tribe
Yeah, I
whose
getcha.
last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
God damn it. I don't want to fuck with merfolk on top of things. I don't have a harpoon gun or anything.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me.
Pale Luna smiles wide.
Then, suddenly, I saw it.
Well, fuck.
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Okay, this pond's really fucking deep then. Okay. Yep. There he is. He's a big boy. Shit.
About which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
You kinda blacked out seeing something so awful. Yeah, there it is. That's how that tends to go.
Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Understandable, yes. Let's just go, huh? No need to stick around that.
I believe I sang a great deal, and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
That's probably not good, I'll be honest.
I have indistinct recollections of
Ocean's coming back.
sometime after I reached the boat.
Yeah. Seems like maybe the ocean is coming back. Yeah, I'd imagine. Seems like you've seen some shit you probably shouldn't have.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital.
Oh. It's the little blessings that count, I guess.
Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
Huh.
In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention.
And delirium will do that.
Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing.
Few would, I'll be honest.
Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
A man of God might believe you. Probably talk to a priest about all this. Oh, God. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticisms to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again. For the first time since his teenage years, Dagon, published in 1919, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the Conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments, and at the proper time take advantage of their moral, altruistic, and less astute contemporaries. In a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims, no country is or ever can be above warfare, until the basic impulses of the human animal should have miraculously changed. Let's get out of here, huh?
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient
Nice
Philistine
office.
legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Add it to the pile. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Syrian poem, and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken as a fish god, due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Yeah, if you're getting invaded by the fucking fish, it's probably good to have a gun on hand.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Understandable. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Ah, that's where the name comes from. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization, that's the word, of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror as a result. The author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. Ooh. Yeah, no one ever takes in mind the aliens showing up. Not a single soul. Oh, that's what that is. I thought that clicking was an audio bug. No, it just comes up when I'm highlighting something I can interact with. Hmm. Why can I come over here? Because there's nothing I can interact with. Not from here, at least. Oh, guess over to the door.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
Yeah, big fish, man.
I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave.
Yeah, that'll happen.
So now, I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Either way, really. Lovecraft hated tobacco. Hey, so do I. Even though he used the smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleiner, claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zalia Brown, dated 13th February 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to. Having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate natural equipoise? Equipoise? Whatever. Of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of prohibition. The prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as and of any other. Spirit of Revision, Lovecraft's letter to Zalia Brown, Reed Bishop, H.P. Lovecraft, Sean Branney, and Andrew Lemon. S.T. Joshi. Again with the morphine.
I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat, after my escape from the German man of war.
Is Fork actually Lovecraft who acquitted immortality and dwelling of the shadows in the Monroe server? It's not an impossibility. It's not something we can rule out at present.
But ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed. Worshipping their ancient stone idols.
There's a lot of shit down there we still don't know anything about.
Submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite.
Yeah.
I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
We're being invaded by Godzillas.
The end is near.
One of us, at least, yeah.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Yeah. I think it do be that time, my boy. Anything else before we get down to it? I guess not.
It shall not find me.
You know, you'd think. But here we are.
God, that hand.
Yeah.
The window. The window.
The second-story window. High, low, low, high, and throw him out the window. No, no more thinking for you. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. We'd appreciate if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out the other games and DLCs. Yeah, there is DLC for this. It's like $5. Please, go, support. It's a good little thing. Especially if you like Lovecraft's work. By all means, enjoy yourselves. Ah. Good stuff, everyone. Good stuff. There was a lot more there that I didn't find, too. Shit, man, he ain't gonna be in Rush Hour 3. Ah, that line's great.